Thank you,
Yeah.
Rahul. Hello, everyone. I'm Vedika Jhavar, Research Associate. Welcome you all on behalf of Raisina House to this virtual roundtable discussion on navigating towards a sustainable blue economy, organized in collaboration with AIDSS Amity University. Raisina House is a registered youth-led policy research think tank based out of New Delhi. We aim to lead and facilitate policy thinking among youth and empower youth voices and aspirations in the policy-making processes of the country. Now, I would like to welcome Rahul Banerjee, the co-founder and MD of Raisina House, to deliver the director's address.
Thank you, Vedika. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends. I, Rahul Banerjee, welcome you all on behalf of Raisina House, Board of Directors, and the Council in this virtual conference discussing navigating towards a sustainable blue economy on the occasion of the World Oceans Day 2021 in collaboration with Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, Amity University, Noida. Raisina House is a registered youth-led policy research think tank based out of New Delhi, India. We strive to lead and facilitate policy thinking in the fields of international affairs, security, and domestic governance, empowering and promoting youth voices in the policymaking process of this country. The conference tonight is being organized in line with our vision project, Indo-Pacific Vision 2025. The project aims to deliberate upon various dynamics of the region's Indo-Pacific strategy and navigate the policies to ensure a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific by the year 2025. Tonight, it is my honor to welcome Admiral Robin Dhowan, PVSM, AVSM, YSM retired Indian Navy, Chairman of SANBIS, and former Chief of Naval Staff, Indian Navy. I take this opportunity to welcome Rear Admiral Mohammad Khurshed Alam, retired Bangladesh Navy, Secretary Maritime Affairs Unit, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh. We are honored to have Ambassador Anup K. Mudgal, Indian Foreign Service, retired, member of FICCI Task Force on Blue Economy, and former Indian Ambassador to Mauritius. I take this opportunity to welcome Lieutenant General Dr. F. K. Garriock, AVSM, retired Indian Army, Director, Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, and Commandant, Amity Institute of Education and Training. I take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed panelist, Professor Jason Scores, Associate Professor and Director, Center for the Blue Economy, Middlebury Institute of International Studies. It is our pleasure to have Captain Dr. Harinder Singh, Director, Head of Institute and Associate Professor, Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, Amity University, Noida. And of course, Dr. Celine German Duret, Senior Lecturer in Human Geography, Liverpool John Moores, United Kingdom. At last, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, Amity University, Noida, under the dynamic leadership of Lieutenant General Dr. S. K. Garriock, AVSM, for their cooperation, support, and of course, the General's never encouragement. Now, without any further delay, I will hand over the session back to Rennie. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great evening ahead.
Thank you,
Good evening,
Rahul, very
everyone.
much.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Right, Vedika, I'll just take it on from here. Thank you very much. I've already been introduced. We will not waste this very precious and valuable time. Thank you. Rahul, indeed, very grateful to you as the Managing Director of Raisina House. You have taken this initiative. And the first thing Rahul told me, ladies and gentlemen, was rather emphatic that if we have the Admiral, that is Admiral Dhowan, who has global maritime blue economic credentials, we will not have this thing organized. So that's why I had to call up the Admiral. And the moment he signaled, okay, I said, all right, we shall go Eastern Station. Thank you very much, sir. I certainly acknowledge your very benign gesture, always.
Thank you.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Rear Admiral Mohammad Khurshid Alam, retired. Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MAU, Government of Bangladesh. Admiral Robin Dhowan, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, retired. Chairperson, SANBIS. former Chief of Naval Staff, Indian Navy, Ambassador Anup Mudgal, IFS, former Indian Ambassador Mauritius, Dr. Celine Gamon-Duret, Senior Lecturer in Human Geography, Liverpool, United Kingdom, Professor Jason Scores, Professor Environment Policy Studies, Middlebury Institute of International Studies, Captain Harinder Singh, happens to be the Director, Amity Institute of Defense Strategic Studies, Amity University, Brigadier B.P. Verma, faculty, students of Amity University, Rahul Banerjee, MD, Raisina House, and Rishika Agarwal, both from Raisina House, Ambassador Anil Truginayat, I cannot see him at the present moment, but he certainly is one of a very respected and venerated former Ambassador Libya Jordan, and senior member, Governing Council of Raisina House. Distinguished audience and colleagues. Well, that was rather long, but I can assure you that we shall get on to blue economy straight. At the very moment, I think it is rather important and quite significant to tell you at the outset, I would like to convey my gratitude, of course, to the Admiral, Dr. Robin Dhowan, for his very benign acceptance to the chair. Thank you very much, sir, once again. And he being a very avid nautical enabler in organizing and facilitating the conduct of such global webinars and conferences on blue economy, I certainly think we would like to shower all our encomiums on him. Our accolades today also reach out to Rahul Banerjee and Rashika and the team in selection and shaping the subject, thereby imparting a very universal dimension per se. SAMDES, which is under the stewardship of the Admiral, is Society for Aerospace and Maritime Defense Studies, ladies and gentlemen, which has established global credentials as a think tank, contributing to policy formulation for the Government of India on strategic maritime issues. And likewise, the Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies at Amity University has been conducting far too many of these contemporary virtual webinars, promoting awareness revolution amongst the students and the youth segment, not only of Amity, but across the country and the globe, enhancing their creative intellect by infusing strategic and critical thinking, which I think is a very, very vital aspect of personality development of the brilliant minds. All this, ladies and gentlemen, we've been able to do it under the leadership and stewardship of our Honorable Founder President, Dr. Ashok Chauhan, Amity Education Group. Today, we have amongst us a very professionally adept and intellectually inclined maverick for the keynote address, and that happens to be none other than Rear Admiral Mohammad Khurshed Alam from Bangladesh Navy, wherein he will share his perceptions and enlighten all of us on merit issues related to the subject, followed by the special address by Ambassador Anup Mudgal Sahab, who would be likewise highlighting very salient issues on blue economy with his extensive enriching experience as a diplomat par excellence. Admiral Robin Dhowan, former chief, will be chairing the panel, the discussion today comprising the three very eminent guest speakers who will be sharing their perception and expert views on the subject. And thereafter, on conclusion of the session, the chair will also be requested to give the closing remarks, sir, with important takeaways, followed by the customary vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, the webinar is addressing a very significant subject, the blue economy, which is assuming a dynamic, multidimensional significance as key ocean assets are conservatively estimated above 25 trillion. Actually, that came as a very big surprise to me. I never knew about this so much. The Admiral is smiling because he knows all these facts and figures. You see him roll it out. It is at the back of his hand. I never knew, ladies and gentlemen, I must share with you, today, it's a revelation. Coastline, 7,500 kilometers, this we knew about it. 9 out of 29 states of India. Coastal, 1,382 islands, 199 ports, 12 major ports handling 1,400 million tons of cargo per year. And the EEZ is 2 million square kilometers, and the coastal economy sustains 4 million fisher folk in India. Well, that's some figures. And I would like to, in the end, say that this concept seeks to promote the substantial contribution to the economic growth in as far as coastal, marine, spatial planning, tourism, DC mining, offshore energy security, strategic dimensions of marine fisheries, aquaculture, and fish processing. It also encompasses and circumscribes manufacturing, emerging industries, sea trade, technology services, and skill development. And lastly, logistics, infrastructure, shipping, including transshipments. Ladies and gentlemen, it also contributes to direct input of 400 to 420 billion dollars, services tourism 365 to 400 billion dollars, trade and transport 700 to 750 billion dollars, and adjacent benefits to biotechnology 890 to 1,000 billion dollars, a total of 2.4 to 2.6 trillion dollars. So at the culmination, I would only say we would leave behind at the end of it some very fine thoughts with you, ladies and gentlemen, that the human mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be ignited. So let there be transformation, reformation, and disruption in technologies and thought process for renaissance of human race in this world. In the end, I wish the proceedings the very best of luck and hope it evokes great interest in all our students, researchers, academicians, and all those attending the webinar. At Amity, we always sustain a very high threshold of research-driven studies and academics nurturing youth as the future leaders of tomorrow. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind. Over to you, Vedika.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant General Dr. S.K. Gadyok. Thank you for sharing your understanding of the salient features of the blue economy. It is my honor to take this session forward, and especially on this day of the World Oceans Day, where we will be navigating towards a sustainable blue economy. In today's day and age of limited space and degraded resources, the ocean economy is experiencing rapid growth, as Lieutenant General just explained, and we will definitely see that it will provide benefits, but it also poses environmental and social risks globally. With emerging established economic sectors expanding in offshore waters, we as members of the international community today hope to identify the actions required by governments and companies to achieve sustainable outcomes in this sector. With that being said, I, Renee Jose, Research Associate at Raisina House, am honored to bring the next speaker forward, which is Rear Admiral Mohammad Khurshed Alam, Bangladesh Navy retired. Rear Admiral Mohammad Khurshed Alam joined the Bangladesh Navy while studying at the Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, and was commissioned at the Naval Academy in 1973 with the Indian President's Gold Medal. He commanded all types of ships and installations in the Navy and also participated in important international naval exercises. He has served as defense advisor at the Bangladesh High Commission, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2009 and has led several rounds of diplomatic talks with India and Myanmar on different delimitations of maritime boundaries between the countries. Immediately after the conquest of the sea, Admiral Alam has been working for the first time to introduce the concept of blue economy to the people of Bangladesh and to achieve growth in the economy of Bangladesh through exploration, exploitation, and proper management of marine resources. He is currently the Vice Chair of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. Besides this, he is an active member of the Coordination Committee on Exploration, Exploitation, and Proper Management of Marine Resources of the Prime Minister's Office. He has formulated a Blue Economy Development Action Plan and sent it to the concerned ministries to take effective action. Recently, as Secretary Maritime Affairs Unit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Rear Admiral Mohammad Khurshed Alam, retired, has been elected as chairperson of the IOC Regional Committee for the Central Indian Ocean for the term May 2021, May 2023. Rear Admiral Mohammad Khurshed Alam will be delivering the keynote address today. Ladies and gentlemen, Rear Admiral Mohammed Khurshed Alam.
Thank you very much. I need to share my slide. Let's see. Can you see?
It's not yet visible, sir.
Not yet, sir.
Can you see now?
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible, but
Yes.
not the slide yet.
Okay, I'll make it there. No, no. Okay, I think I'm
Yes,
visible
sir.
now.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Sir,
you
you
very
are.
much. Thank you very much for the big introduction. I was probably not prepared for that, especially in front of Admiral and the General. Sir, thank you very much for inviting me to this great occasion today. I shall try to navigate, as you can see, that most of Indian as well as Bangladeshis, we are probably always wading through the knee-deep water. So it's a difficult task for all of us, especially from the people who are dealing this subject, to navigate these people towards a sustainable blue economy. Because we are only here. From here to take them to the deeper part of the sea with all the activities going on, as you can see, whether you call it a submarine operation, fishing, gas, everything is deeper part of the sea. But I shall try to take you down as early as I can. As you can know that over 3 billion people lives in the near the coastal waters, and that's with all the, I'm not going to touch upon all this. Probably most of you know it. The blue economy, it's called sustainable because it provides food, nutrition, energy, transportation, mineral, fresh water, also for leisure and health products. And as you can see, it is a concept to capture the overall economic contribution of the oceans and the marine resources, which we have neglected so far. And also it is a driver of sustainable development and improved marine conservation. As you have rightly said, General, the total value gross marine product estimated today is about $24 trillion US. Only then we are using out of that 2.5 trillion US dollar. That is 70% is still remained out at sea for us to grab. In the Millennium Development Goals, there was no mention about the sea, but in the Sustainable Development Goals, as you can see, Goal 14, which is in the biosphere, has laid bare our, going up to the economy and developing the society. If you look at it as a sort of three-stage cake, these are all, you have environmental problem, you have a social problem, you have economic problem. But for all these, to make it viable, to make it sustainable, to make it equitable and practicable, we must take enough steps. Let me tell you a little bit about the law of the sea, because it's probably mostly known. But as you can see, you need a baseline. 12 meters is territorial sea, 24 nautical miles is contiguous zone, 200 nautical mile is exclusive economic zone, 350 is our continental shelf, and then of course is the area which is different part of the humankind altogether. So states are conferred a range of maritime zones under the international law. States do exercise sovereignty, rights, and various elements of jurisdiction in different zones. This includes, of course, territorial sea, EEZ, and continental shelf, and also an extended continental shelf. So there are obligations also. It is not only that we keep these items at our disposal. There are a lot of obligations. There are a lot of polymetallic nodules. Cobalt is crushed, reaches, as you can see in these various areas out at sea. It's not only the fish, you know. So to succeed in managing deep sea minerals, of course, we are still not yet there. So I will not touch upon that. I will start with the shipping. As you can see, all yellow dots, they are the ships. So there are number of ships, 150,000 of them, you know, and the ships carry a lot of cargo. Last year, it was almost 11 billion tons of deadweight tonnage of cargoes, which was carried across the oceans all over the countries, you know. And even the developed countries, they are carrying containers through the rivers. But unfortunately, if you look at India and Bangladesh, we have a huge GDP, lot of growth rate, but then hardly you will find the containers traveling through the sea, which has remained still the cheapest means of transportation in the world as a whole. Even in Bangladesh, we have lots of ships like this, but then, you know, the coastal shipping is not that important as of now. We have signed an agreement with India for the coastal shipping. It is picking up. I hope that with that, we would be able to connect up, which is more important, you know, as your project of Sagarmala, that we must connect up through the sea, and that's not happening. You know, as a whole, business is increasing almost at a rate of 15%. So for that, you know, if we look at the whole earth, the world, 74% of the containers originate from Asia. 74%. Only rest 26% originates either in North America or in Europe. So the Asian continents, Asian areas will remain very important for the blue economy part. You know, major part of this, you can see here that these are remain as, you know, all this is the important part of the area. But of course, if you see the our last mile delivery of the shipping goods is sometimes very costly. It is almost 53%. There, whether you talk about India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, we need to probably come up with ideas. Shipping as a whole is a manpower intensive industry, which we forget living in the probably hinterland of India or in Bangladesh. There are a lot of ancillary facilities where from where the shipping comes in. As you can see here, of course, there are pressure for green shipping is probably will come, but then it will take some time for us, especially in this sort of countries. But there are other resources like the seaweeds. You know, we have India has, Bangladesh has, Sri Lanka has, but we are not using. These are could be used for export to even Japan for sushi wrapping. They use this. You know, we actually still are in whether in Bangladesh or India catching fish with this one, you know, this type of boats, which can hardly go another 20, 25 nautical miles. And this type of trawlers we have, they go another 25, 20, 30 miles. So that means in the Indian Ocean or in the Bay of Bengal, a large portion of our sea areas are still not actually covered or habited by the fishing fleet. You know, the country-wise, the figure is very low. Indonesia last year earned about $12 billion, and India earned only $4 billion. There is no reason any of the industry we can compete. You know, if we because fish you don't have to feed; it is already there. You just catch, export, and earn money, and that's where our outlook from the hinterland of the country is not there going to the sea. You know, fishing at sea is slightly different. It's not like the land. Long line fishing, hardly we have in the western part of India, but in the eastern part of India is still there. Sri Lanka does the maximum. Last year they export almost 80,000 metric tons of tuna fish, which earned a lot of money, but it's not very much. So what is our challenge? Challenge is by 2030, we will need another 100 million tons fish. Today we are producing 180 million. Half of it comes from culture, half of it from capture. But another additional 100 million tons from where it is going to come. It has to come not from capture but from culture, where we are still lacking. These days, all these type of big fishes are being cultured, you know, out at sea, not on the coastal waters, but not on the rivers. So we need to look at have a fresh look that where do you go? Should we run for only the medicine industry, garment industry, or we look for the resources lying out at the sea? For the shipbuilding, yes, probably you are doing well in this country. But another thing we are doing is, is the ship recycling. That's you can see in Bangladesh condition and in other condition, because the four countries, China, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, we do the 94% of ship recycling. In Bangladesh, it is about $2 billion industry, because most of the rod, the building rod comes from this. But when somebody sees this picture, it's of course because most of our ship recycling industry do not actually comply with the Hong Kong Convention. That's another difficulty. You see, rationale for mangrove conservation. You have seen the cyclone Ampan and cyclone Sidor and Ayla, and also the recent one. The mangrove has played a very, very key role. You know, in case of biotechnology, General, you are very much right in pointing out. But if you see, the eondalis is for cancer. It is made from Caribbean sea squid. Red seaweed, that's also is there. The Japanese deep water spawns, they are producing halaven for cancer and everything. But, like this one, they are also produced from seaweeds. The Chinese guys, they buy from our coastal waters and they import back it to our five-star hotel. So that's the thing. We are all happy with this dry fish still, especially if it is cooked by our mothers, because it doesn't match that taste with any other food. If you look at the caught fish, not a single drop of thing is left out. Even the skin is made to jacket by Iceland, a very small country, not a country like India or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. And they are much more ahead. Tourism is about $1.3 trillion industry. It might have got hit because of the pandemic, but as a whole, you can see tourism is a big, big industry. In Bangladesh, we are not there. India, of course, somewhat better. Only one in our, 70 years of our independence, only this ship, Silver Discoverer, came from Chennai, carrying some pilgrimage to one of our island, and then they left after seeing that. And that is the first ship ever visited. Technology today is available. In 80s, we could only see 50 meter of depth of water. But today, we can even see 11,000 meters. That means the whole depth of the Himalayan mountain can be seen and explored. I don't have to tell the Admiral is here, but that is what is the thing. Underwater environment monitoring is hardly there in the Bay of Bengal or in the Indian Ocean, unless in some specific areas that is also for the naval purposes, not for civilian purposes. Oil and gas, about 32% comes from the sea, but in Bangladesh, India, I'm sure is not as close as anything else. Emerging issues, solar power, offshore wind, wave, tide, everything is coming. If you look at this, the wave energy is coming to fruition, and also the tide energy. South Korea has made a tide energy. Both, tide, low water and high water, they turn the turbine, and the cost is really, really minimal for that. We are only happy with the salt pans because this is easy. We lay the, tarpaulin, and then the high water is caught, and then with the sun's ray, the water goes, evaporates, and the salt is collected, and we are very happy with that. But there's no investment. Of course, somebody might say offshore wind energy would be a good option, but in Bangladesh, at least we have found out that no, this offshore wind is not a very good option as of yet. But of course, the gas hydrate, which India has discovered here, we are also trying to find out in this part. Gas hydrate is a methane gas, but this will be the actually the fuel for the next century once we materialize and how to collect it. That's the important thing. Look at this global submarine cable. 98% of the international internet traffic is actually done. There are about 1 million kilometers of cables in the whole of the world, because if you take out the water, it will look like this. But look at the figure. They are responsible for $10 trillion worth of transaction value every day, which is much greater than GDP of Japan, Germany, Australia together. Where is India? Where is Bangladesh? We have one or two cables coming, but as a whole in the global submarine cable map, we do not actually feature into the real benefit which the other developed countries are doing. And it is time that we must look at it. Maritime domain awareness, yes, India is quite good at it right now, but then we have a lot to do, especially like smaller countries. What is happening out at sea, we must have it at our, doorstep. The blue economy opportunities, of course, there are a lot of opportunities are coming. What I have said, I will not repeat them. you know, the business opportunities are abundant, including conventional bunkering, blockchain technologies, ship waste management, traceability. Mining sector is full of options, that we probably need to do. At the same time, we need to look at also under the water because the plastic pollution is getting to the DAF, especially the microplastics. They are also getting into the sea. And if you look at this figure, it is, of course, from my friend Onup, that there are 150 million plastic today, and fish is 812. But by 2050, it will be around the same time, 850, 820. So if we do not stop using plastic today, or if we do not teach our children, teach in our school, college that do not do it, maybe in 2050, we will have less thing. And also the invasive species are coming. Coastal habitat facilitation, that is a must. The tetrapods are coming, and also the plantation. There are no options for a country like with 7,000, coastal limit. So is Bangladesh with about 700. We need to come up with a special planning very soon. But again, the problem is training, education. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we need to probably look at more minutely. IIT will give us the best of the money, but C will be the best of the alternative. You know, Look at the South China Sea. What is happening? You know, Japan, China, Vietnam is asking like this, Philippines is asking like this, and then Indonesia is like this, Brunei is like this. So it is a mess. But our Indian Ocean is not a mess. We have been able to probably solve most of our problems, and I'm sure we can probably get on. So I will request you to look at the map in an upside down, in a different perspective. If you just make it upside down, India, Bangladesh, Bangladesh to India, we need passport. India to Bangladesh, we need passport. But who says? General, you will be surprised to know that if you look south, if you go to Indian Ocean, Pacific, Atlantic, nobody will ask you for passport and visa. What you need is a ship and probably some qualified human being, so that the Indian Ocean, which is the most important neighbor of the subcontinent, can get back as the resources, especially the blue economy resources we need. So we have to actually pick up our target as quickly as possible. Otherwise, others will take it on. I'll just finish, sir, within a minute, saying that what is capability versus capacity? We have capacity, all of us. So a car has fallen, as you can see, maybe 1300 cc. You have brought in a 5-ton crane. But when it was brought in, this 5-ton crane, once it is fully extended, it does not actually have that same capability. So the operator did not have the capability. So when he tried to push it up, this is what has happened. A bigger one brought in, and the same thing happened because the operator forgot to see that the length of the arm, if it is fully stretched, it will not work out. So it did not happen so way. So I'll finish with this, that Albert Einstein has said that doing same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We have employed far too much time to our land activities. It's very easy, because if you are living on a land, if you are a land oriented, and if your parents have a lot of money, they would give you money to have a set of industry on the land itself. And within 5 years, you get the money from the bank, you get a good house, you also get a good, beautiful wife, and also be the best of the car in India and Bangladesh. So a young boy of 30, 35, if he's got a beautiful wife, a beautiful house, and a beautiful car, why should he be persuaded? How should he be persuaded to go to the sea, to take the trouble what is lying under the water? But that's what is our job today, sir. I will submit to all of you that we must rethink, reevaluate our approach to the industry, and why not we get back to the sea. And I can tell you, we can match each and every industry located in the land of India or in Bangladesh or other countries, and then we probably get over. Thank you very much, sir, for listening. I will stop here.
Thank you, Rear Admiral Mohammed Khurshed Alam, for your deep insights on Bangladesh's sustainable, equitable, and practical approach and the way ahead for an ever-expanding blue economy. Finally, we welcome Ambassador Anup K. Mudgal, IFS retired member of FICCI Task Force on Blue Economy and former Indian ambassador to Mauritius. Ambassador Anup K. Mudgal is a member of the Indian Foreign Services, retired on May 2016 as India's High Commissioner to Mauritius. As part of his diplomatic career spanning 32 years, he served thrice at the headquarters of the Ministry of External Affairs, handling relations with India's neighbors, ASEAN region, Russian Federation, and some countries of Central and Eastern Europe, as well as issues relating to human resource development. Post-retirement, Ambassador Mudgal has been engaged in several voluntary assignments, the most important ones being member of FICCI Task Force on Blue Economy, member of Steering Committee on Blue Economy under PMEAC, member of the core team of Kalinga International Foundation, Chair Diaspora Committee ARSP, former Joint Secretary, Association of Indian Diplomats, Chair of the Working Group on Security, Strategic Dimensions, and International Engagement. And finally, delivering guest lectures at various higher education and professional institutes. Ambassador Mudgal has also co-edited and co-authored several documents on a range of political and policy issues like the famous Purbasa East Meets East. This book consists of compiled articles on various aspects of India's engagement with the Indo-Pacific region. Today, it is our honor to welcome Ambassador Mudgal to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you very much. I hope you are able to hear me out.
Yes.
In fact, after the previous presentation, I was wondering what should I really say, because this was really a very comprehensive presentation. It covered most of the sectors in blue economy. It covered most of the challenges. It also covered most of the opportunities. So what I will do, I will try to kind of create a picture or a vision in terms of where we are coming from in terms of blue economy and where we are heading and what kind of a roadblocks and facilitation will come across in meeting our vision, in reaching our vision and meeting our challenges. As mentioned by the master of the ceremony, my association with blue economy goes back by about 7 years. I started in Mauritius and I was associated very closely with developing the idea of SAGAR, which is security and growth for all in the region. As I mentioned, I worked very closely with Indian Ocean Rim Association headquarters in Mauritius. Admiral Dhowan is, I think, aware of my history of association with blue economy. As member of the task force on blue economy at FICCI, we have produced some useful documents. The first one was the knowledge paper on blue economy, because when we started working on blue economy in Delhi, we discovered that this was a very, very new topic for most of our interlocutors. We thought, let's really create an introductory document on blue economy. And that is where we produced the knowledge paper. Then we expanded on the knowledge paper and created another document which calls for sharing best practices in blue economy, especially the sectoral approach, as the previous presentation mentioned. We went into each sector with a lot of details, talking of the opportunities and challenges, and at the same time, talking about the emerging solutions to those challenges. So that publication, both these publications are available in soft version. I have sent it to Rahul, and I would say please share with anyone who is interested. Right now, we are working on another document which goes further into, that is called, in fact, Blue Economy, India's Pathway to Secure, Sustainable and Resilient Economy. You see, our purpose on, then of course I forgot with Admiral Dhowan Sahib, under his guidance, we produced a series of 7 documents as part of the activities of the Steering Committee on Blue Economy. And all these documents are available online. And these are very detailed sectoral documents. I would suggest anybody interested in the blue economy aspect in India, these documents are extremely useful. Admiral Sahib, as you know, as FICCI, member of the FICCI task force, when we started examining the main challenges of blue economy in India, and of course, I did that not under the banner of blue economy in Europe for a long time. The main challenge was we had a lot of intellectual activity and exercise to debate about the largest sustainability issues, and within the larger umbrella of sustainability, blue economy, but we were not really engaging the business community. Now, whatever we may do, at the end of the day, these activities will be carried out by the business community. And if they are not convinced that sustainability makes good business sense, they would not agree with us and they would not put their money on that. So, sir, if I will go back to the basics, why blue economy, or why we are talking about sustainability? As human society, we are very keen to have what is called good life in very simple terms. And those who have good lives, they are seeking better life. Now, getting good life and better life will need a lot of resources. Nothing comes free. And those resources will come through economic growth. That is why everyone, including us in India, we are all seeking rapid economic growth. I was trying to see the latest figures on economic forecasting for, say, next 25, 30 years. I couldn't lay my hands on exact prognosis. But, why not? Let's imagine a bit. Now, if I do a reasonable imagination, say the world grows between 2 to 3% per year, which is absolutely reasonable, the world economy will double in the next 25 to 30 years. That means in the next 25 to 30 years, we would add something about 90 to 95 trillion dollars to the world economy. Good news, isn't it? Very good news. But then the question is, when we add $95 trillion to the world economy, we will need tremendous amount of resources to generate that economic growth. The question is, where would these resources come from? If we go by the experience of our economic growth so far, our economic growth has been what is called resource intensive. We have excessively utilize resources, natural resources, in meeting those targets of growth. As a result, we have already damaged the land-based resources beyond repair. And as a result, if we have to add $95 trillion to the economy, I am sure we cannot exploit the land beyond what we have already done. We have, in the simple terms, we have messed up the water, messed up the air, messed up the land, messed up the biodiversity. Now, the question is, how do we achieve resource efficiency? Because if we do not reduce the resource intensity of growth, we would not be able to have sustainable growth, and we would face massive retaliation from the nature. And I'm sure COVID-19 would be a good reminder how ruthless the nature could be when we don't respect it. So I look at two sides of this story. One is reducing the resource intensity, and the other is finding new resources. Now, those new resources will also need resource efficiency, which will reduce resource intensity. On the land-based resources, I think we would need to look at very seriously what now we call, and I work very closely with that aspect also, which is called circular economy. Can we bring in circular economy for achieving those goals which we popularly call as reduce, reuse, and recycle? There are tremendous possibilities of reducing the resource intensity by going through circular economy. The other opportunity that we have is today's theme of our discussion, that is, can we go to the oceans? Now, oceans, as mentioned earlier, is a major part of this beautiful planet, and we presume that we have not been able to harness the ocean fully. Now, while we have been associated with ocean and ocean economy ever since the humans became or started calling itself civilizational, we went to the ocean for food, we went to the ocean for transport, we went to the ocean for recreation, we went to the ocean for energy, and you name it. The previous presentation has covered all those sectors. And now the new sectors like the seabed mining or the ocean biotechnology or the renewable energy. We know the ocean, but still we do not know the ocean. In fact, you will be surprised that we only know about 6% of the ocean, in fact. But 95% of the ocean, we simply do not fully understand. But we think that's a huge body available to us, and we can go and exploit it further. Can we do it? As the previous presentation mentioned, there are estimates that the ocean assets could be about $24 trillion. The annual value addition could be $2.5 trillion. And the OECD says by 2030, the ocean-based sectors will create more value addition and jobs vis-a-vis the counterpart land-based economic sectors. Now that tells us what ocean can give us. But the issue is, can we really blindly go to the ocean and exploit these resources? In fact, sir, at the task force, we have stopped using the term exploitation. Exploitation means exploitation. We are using the term, can we harness the ocean in a friendly manner? Because if we don't do it, because the ocean is already suffering, we have tremendous ocean pollution. Probably an ordinary person didn't know till recently that we have messed up the ocean also. The ocean is going through massive acidification, and that is leading to the loss of biodiversity in the ocean. And you would be surprised, 94% of the land biodiversity is housed in oceans, and we cannot mess it up. And then finally, the most dangerous part is the global warming. Then, in fact, we forget sometimes We all talk about carbon capture. 30% of the total carbon produced on the land is captured by the oceans. And we don't even give it recognition, and we don't even respect it. During COVID crisis, we found how essential the oxygen was. And we forget 50% of the oxygen that we breathe on the earth is produced by the oceans. Oceans literally control your weather systems, which means the whole water cycle on the earth is controlled by the oceans. And if that gets disturbed, your whole land-based economy will be in jeopardy. So as a result, while we can definitely go to the ocean, but we have to be very careful that we go to the ocean as ocean's friend and not as ocean's exploiters, for God's sake. Now, we started calling it blue economy, and thanks to the small development island states, they really brought our attention to the sustainability aspect of the so-called ocean economy. Now we call blue economy. There are three verticals which we pay attention to. These verticals, of course, the vertical of economy, then of course the vertical of security. I will not touch on that because I see very, very distinguished people on the panel, and they know much better than I about how to secure the blue economy. And then of course the third, which is least known and most important in my view, is the sustainability pillar. Now these three verticals need to converge if we really want to take advantage of blue economy. Now, the question is, what do we do? Because as I mentioned, at the end of the day, our ideas will be carried out on the ground by the business community. And we need to go to them and convince them that it makes good business sense to respect the ocean and be more sustainable. Now, what are the drivers? Because nothing happens on its own. Somebody has to push those ideas and make sure that people see their benefit in those ideas. Now, what are the drivers which will take us, probably push us, nudge us towards greater sustainability? In fact, I kind of categorize them into broad themes. These drivers are, first is the regulatory driver. Now we have global commitments for the regulations. We have the national commitments for regulations. I will not go through all the long list because I don't think I have the time to go into all those details, but there are very important multilateral, regional, and national regulatory commitments. Those will have to be complied with for essentially meeting the sustainability aspect of economic development. Then, of course, there is a technology driver. Now, the technology generators are aware that their technology has to be pro-sustainability in the years to come. Nobody will go for a technology which does not conform to the sustainability goals. As a result, we are coming across beautiful technologies which can improve all the sectors of blue economy, from fishing to port to the shipping to the renewable energy or the biotechnology. I will not go into those details. I would request, in case you are interested, you can please have a look at the publications I mentioned. Then finance. The other day I wrote, in fact, a chapter on financing blue economy. In fact, whenever we are talking to our business partners, they said, "Sir, please tell us where will the money come from?" So we prepared a full chapter on financing blue economy, and we brought out in that chapter that the tomorrow's investor shall not invest in any venture which is not sustainable. If you tell me to invest in internal combustion engine, I will not put even a penny. But if you tell me to invest on electrical vehicles, probably I will do it. You will be surprised in energy sector, sir. You mentioned about energy sector. 80% of the new investments in the energy sector are in the renewable sector. People are no more investing in polluting energy ventures. And this is happening all over. Sir, I'm sure Admiral Saab will talk about wonderful technologies in port and shipping and other undersea awareness. We say marine domain awareness, and there is something called undersea domain awareness. And this is going to be highly driven by knowledge. The other day, in fact, in one of the meetings, I remember, I said we sometimes very casually use we are a knowledge economy. Those who say we are a knowledge economy, please have a look at the future of blue economy. The amount of knowledge that will be required for harnessing blue economy is going to be unimaginable. And that technology and knowledge itself will create a lot of good business. Since we have people from Amity University here, universities are going to be a major driver of that knowledge, and that will be good business. Then, of course, finally, the public opinion. Tomorrow's generation is not going to accept anybody who claims to master polluting the environment. They would respect only those who respect the environment. And public opinion, in my view, is going to be a major driver for the governments, for the business, for the think tanks, for the universities, for innovators in the technology area. If you do not respond to that public opinion, you have no business to be in business. So I would, in fact, I have done my time. I can go on and on, expanding on these ideas, but I will stop here. And if there are any questions, I will definitely answer. But most of the themes I mentioned are contained in the documents, of which I have shared the soft copies with the organizers. And anybody wants, I can also forward it to them. We are working very closely with European Union. We are working very, very closely with the North American technology generators. I think blue economy will demand working together. We will not be able to work in silos because the land has been divided, but the ocean does not respect those divisions. If you pollute in one region, the other region will also suffer. And we have to get together to make sure that nobody does it. With these words, I'll stop here. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I will always be available for answering any questions now or even in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Mudgal, for answering some very pertinent questions on why blue economy and why we should really approach a sustainable approach to harnessing the oceans in the future. Now, I would like to hand over the session back to Vedika to briefly introduce our esteemed panel for tonight and take the session forward.
Thank you, Rene. It is my honor and it is my pleasure to introduce the esteemed panel for tonight's discussion. We are honored to have Admiral R.K. Dhowan, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, ADC retired, as a session chair. Sir is an alumnus of the National Defense Academy, the Defense Services Staff College, and the Naval War College, Newport, Rhode Island, USA. The Admiral has commanded 3 frontline warships of the Western Fleet and has served as a flag officer commanding Eastern Fleet and Chief of Staff of the Eastern Naval Command. Important staff assignments held by the Admiral at Naval Headquarters during his distinguished career include Deputy Director, Naval Operations, Joint Director, Naval Plans, Assistant Chief of the Naval Staff, Policy and Plans, and Deputy Chief of Naval Staff. The Admiral assumed the charge as the Vice Chief of the Naval Staff in August 2011 and was subsequently promoted as the 22nd Chief of the Naval Staff of the Indian Navy on 17 April 2014. He retired from the Navy in 2016 after a distinguished career of 42 years in uniform. Lately, the Admiral is the chairman of Society for Aerospace, Maritime and Defense. It is our honor to have Professor Jason Scores, Associate Professor, Program Chair, International Environmental Policy, Director at Center for the Blue Economy, Middlebury Institute of International Studies, Monterey. Captain Dr. Harinder Singh, Indian Navy retired. Sir is the head of institute at Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies, Amity University, Noida. And Dr. Celine German-Duret, who is a senior lecturer in hydrography at Liverpool John Moores, UK. Without any further delay, I request the session chair for the evening, Admiral R.K. Dhowan, PVSM, AVSM, ISM, ADC retired, to take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. Lieutenant General Gadiok, the Director General of AIDSS, Amity University, Rear Admiral Khurshed Alam, my dear friend from Bangladesh, Ambassador Anup Mudgal, the former High Commissioner of India at Mauritius, where I had the privilege and the honor to visit him while he was the High Commissioner there. Also, Mr. Rahul Banerjee, the MD of Raisina House, eminent panelists, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a distinct honor for me to be present here today to share my thoughts with all of you on navigating towards a sustainable blue economy. As you're all aware, today is World Oceans Day, and what better way to create an awareness about our oceans than discuss about the sustainable development. And therefore, I will start right from the oceans, where you're aware that our blue planet, the Earth, has a dominance of the maritime domain, with over 70% of the Earth's surface covered by water, nearly 80% of the world's population living within 200 nautical miles of the coast, and about 90% of the world's trade transiting by sea. Oceans are therefore central to life on Earth. They are rich in oil and mineral resources. They are the suppliers of oxygen, the absorbers of carbon dioxide, a virtual heat sink, rich in biodiversity, which have emerged as global economic highways for transit of seaborne trade. But with depletion of resources on land, humankind has turned towards the seas for resources, as Ambassador Mudgal said. And there is a misperception that the oceans are an unending resource base and an infinite sink. Nothing could be further away from reality. The reality is that over the past few decades, there has been indiscriminate pollution of the seas and contamination of the natural marine habitat, resulting in a detrimental impact of climate change on the oceans. Studies have indicated that nearly 80% of all pollutants in the ocean emanate from land. And if the current rate of pollution continues, in a few decades from now, we will have more plastic in the ocean than fish, as Admiral Khurshed Alam so beautifully brought out. The concept of blue economy has emerged as a new paradigm. And I would like to define harnessing the blue economy as the economic development of all our maritime interests by optimal utilization of resources with minimum impact on the environment to ensure sustainable development of the oceans. Maritime security is a prerequisite to harnessing the blue economy. And while the waters of the Indo-Pacific have emerged as global economic highways, the seas are no longer a benign medium. And globalization has resulted in vulnerabilities of the oceans. The threats and challenges in the maritime domain are as wide and varied as they come. Who could have imagined that in the 21st century, we would once again be grappling with pirates, or that the major threat in the maritime domain would be from asymmetric challenges and maritime terrorism? But that is a reality today. And the other challenges include arms trafficking, drug smuggling, human trafficking, and poaching, or IUU fishing. Another challenge on the waters of the Indo-Pacific is that indiscriminate pollution of the seas has resulted, as I said, in a detrimental impact of climate change of the oceans. Consequently, a large percentage of extreme climate conditions turn into natural disasters, such as the cyclones and the tsunamis. And our navies and coast guards have to be constantly ready to provide humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. The instabilities and turbulence on land in some parts of the Indo-Pacific, along with issues such as sovereignty, territorial integrity, freedom of navigation, and control of resources, have a potential to spill over into the maritime domain. And the situation can best be described as fragile. Consequently, over 120 warships from nearly 20 navies are always present in the Indian Ocean to safeguard their maritime interests. In addition, naval assets are regularly deployed in the South China Sea to ensure freedom of navigation. The countries of the Indo-Pacific are essentially maritime in nature, with a natural outflow towards the seas. And their maritime interests have an intrinsic relationship with keeping the sea lines of communication open. Because if there is any impediment to the free flow of oil or trade, it would have a detrimental impact not just on the economies of the region, but the global economies as well. Safety, security, and stability on the waters of the Indo-Pacific is therefore of paramount importance, and the countries of the region actually need to work together to evolve a common rules-based international order. Maritime security can only be assured by effective and a robust maritime cooperation arrangement. And for that, we will have to look at the existing structures in the Indo-Pacific. And if we look at the existing structures, in the Indian Ocean, we find them at three levels. At the conceptual level, we have the concept of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region, which is the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. At the political level, we have the Indian Ocean Rim Association, which was established in 1997, and around 2012, maritime safety and security was added to the agenda of the IORA to enable and to promote cooperation between the countries of the region. And at the execution level of the navies, we have the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, which is a unique initiative taken by the Indian Navy in 2008. And today it provides an effective template for maritime security cooperation between the navies of the region. Similarly, in the Indo-Pacific, at the strategic level, at the conceptual level, we can consider the strategy for free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. At the political level, we have the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or the Quads construct. And at the execution level of the navies, we need to finalize the cooperation arrangement between the navies of the Quad countries. It is recommended that we have greater interaction between the existing structures to provide synergy to maritime cooperation and ensure a safe, stable, secure, and a sustainable Indo-Pacific to harness the blue economy. With those opening remarks, I will stop here and turn towards my very accomplished panelists. And the first on the list is Dr. Captain Harinder Singh, who's had a distinguished career in the Navy for over 30 years. He's a scholar warrior, and he has his expertise in areas of renewable sources of energy. He has also written extensively on the Indian Ocean and the Indo-Pacific. And today he will share his thoughts and his presentation with us, which is on the Blue Economy Sustainable Goals. So over to you, Captain Harinder Singh.
Thank you, sir. I'll take a second to load my presentation.
Please.
Is it visible? Honorable General Gadyok, sir, Admiral Khurshed Alam, sir, Ambassador Anup Mudgal, sir, and Admiral Dhowan, sir, the chairman of the panel, sir. With the permission, may I start, sir?
Please, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Navigating to a sustainable new economy. I commence my presentation with a quote by the Honorable Prime Minister in his latest policy 2021, which has come in February. And I quote, "To me, the blue chakra or wheel in India's national flag represents the potential of blue revolution or the blue economy. That is how central the ocean is to us. Wheels, ladies and gentlemen, wheels on wheels, and we know without wheels we would have been nowhere."
Captain Harinder, we are not able to see your slides. Can you share the slides again?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Permission to continue, sir.
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. After the Honorable Prime Minister's diktat on the chakra, I move on to Jonathan Swift in the 18th century Anglo-Irish satirist poet. To facilitate hunt for Africa, he used its inverted image. Today, I use this inverted image to depict ocean dominance, which Admiral Dhowan and the panelists, eminent panelists have already mentioned. The parameters are well known to us. Yes, 71% of the total Earth surface is water, out of which only 6% has been exploited. Reviving Ocean Economy Report 2015 estimates the value of key ocean assets to be $24 trillion. The annual value of goods and services contributed by the ocean, $2.5 trillion. This talks about the social security dimension of the ocean. The social security dimension, and as Ambassador Mudgal also mentioned, has led to the run for maritime and ocean-based reserves. It has augmented rivalry for domination of overseas reserves, has further created problems in the free and open maritime order. COVID added to the global and regional complexities. Economic slowdown, retrenchment, joblessness has made us rethink in blue, green, and brown terms, with blue and green taking prominence. As I have been directed to cover the historical and conceptual factors, it would be unwise of me not to cover Gunther Fall, the initiator of blue economy concept, where he talks about 100 innovations inspired by nature can generate 100 million jobs over a decade and redefined the model of competitiveness by stimulating entrepreneurs to change business models. His second book, The Blue Economy 2, published in 2015, talks about 200 project investments by the US and 30 lakh jobs. The philosophy of blue economy continues to inspire entrepreneurs with an aim to create economic and social value without generating waves. And the international organizations of the nations have taken it in a very positive manner. The United Nations Earth Summit got green economy as a main component of sustainable development in 1992 Third Earth Summit. It promulgated the Agenda 21 plan. The plan was reviewed after 20 years at Rio Plus 20 UN conference. They reviewed the global environmental and economic goals, which you all know, led to the formation of the sustainable developmental goals to be attained in the 21st century. However, till now, the green economy was being popularized over blue. Relevance and applicability of green over blue was questioned by coastal countries and especially by the small island development countries. In response, the first Blue Economic Summit was held in January 2015 at Abu Dhabi under the aegis of STID's Action Platform. The Abu Dhabi Declaration 2015 highlighted blue economy as the mainstream agenda for sustainable development. Subsequently, in 2015, the UN issued the Agenda 2030, which is aimed at harnessing economic growth based on the principle of social inclusion and environment protections. Focus was on 5 P's: people, planet, peace, partnership, and prosperity. Focusing on these 5 P's, 7 sustainable goals were developed. The 14th was related to blue economy and talks about conservation and sustainable use of oceans, seas, maritime resources, and sustainable development. International groups, IORA, etc., picked up and formulated sustainable development goals with minor amendments based on their regional requirements. Indian Ocean Rim Association in 2014 declared 6 priority pillars for sustainable blue economy. First, fisheries and aquaculture, renewable ocean energy, seaport and shipping, offshore hydrocarbon and seabed mineral mining, marine biotechnology, research and development, and tourism. Maritime areas and accountability framework kept building up from 2015 to 2019. They added, in 2015, we had the Maritime Safety and Security Cooperation included at Durban, followed by exploitation and development of seabed minerals and hydrocarbons at Bali. The first IORA dialogue was held at Goa, India, on blue economy and introduced accounting frameworks for the 5 pillars. In 2015, Mauritius Declaration on Blue Economy formulated 14 sustainable goals for island developing states and also supported the implementation of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. Then we had, in 2017, the Jakarta Accord on Blue Economy, where the working group was formed for IORA Action Plan 2017-2021. On the international level, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation held its meetings at Xiamen, China, and in 2014, the Xiamen Declaration got blue economy as the main sustainable development force. Similarly, the European Union in 2012 formulated the first European Union integration maritime policy at Cyprus, which focused on job creation, sustainability, and inclusive growth through more effective policies. Recently, the European Union has come up with a blue growth strategy to tackle climate and biodiversity, which requires healthy seas and sustainable use of their resources to create alternatives to fossil fuels and traditional food production. The 6 pillars have been declared and highlighted, which are to be achieved by, and their objectives are to be achieved by 2050. India, as the chair just mentioned, has not been lagging behind. India observed the Maritime Decade 2010-2020. In 2015, we adopted a dual approach to blue economy, with Sagarmala addressing the internal parameters to augment riverine, inland waterway, coastal, port and water transportation, and Sagar, security and growth for all, conceptualized well the Indian maritime goodwill curve for blue economy. I shall dwell upon the Indian maritime goodwill curve subsequently in my slides as a subset of blue economy. However, Sagar professed collaborative goodwill-based socio-economic engagements and networked maritime security cooperation in dealing with maritime commons. The new draft Indian blue economy policy came in February 2021 and is under finalization at the Ministry of Earth Services. It is a part of India's new vision to be implemented by 2030. Moving back to India's maritime goodwill curve diplomacy, or India's maritime diplomacy, it is a state of equilibrium that delivers mutually beneficial results to collaborating stakeholders and expands India's maritime collaboration. Why we need an MCG as a collaborating instrument for engaging today in blue economy is not only because of Thucydides trap building up or India gaining center stage at the World Maritime Strategic Affairs view location, centrality and patterns of envisioned economic growth, but more so for sustainable growth and development, which Mackinder professed in 1904 as, and I quote, need for developing contemporary socio-political propositions through 1,000 million people, for 1,000 million people of Oriental civilization to grow to prosperity and bring about a happy world order. So there is a need to shape up the IMC as an instrument of blue economic policy by maritime collaborations and convert them into mutually beneficial economic growth architectures, while also strengthening the idea of maritime common. This can be done by addressing various variables like the IRA opportunities, island-based opportunities, addressing IPR, literal interdependent trade variables, etc. I shall be covering a few of them due to time paucity. I'll cover 3 or 4 of them. Let's look at the IRA variable in IMCG. IRA, 41 countries, 3 continents, 2 lakh kilometer coastline, 721 seaports, 1 port per 275 kilometers. Gives sustainable life support to 4 billion population and has a combined GDP of US 63.40 trillion. That is where everybody needs to move in. We need roads, rail, seaports, airports to provide connectivity and market access. Just a comparative of port functioning, Singapore handles 3,000 vessels per day. India's 72 major ports jointly handle about 800 vessels a day. Whole of South Asia, Africa, and the Middle East is a target of Chinese infrastructure investment. We need to gauge where we are and where we wish to be. Moving on to island shopping variable. Since Mackinder's island chain were appreciated, USA after 1950 used Taiwan as a strategic card. China's island chain strategies have effectively proliferated to 4th and 5th island chain analogy and augmented string of pearl strategy. On right side, here I am showing you the Chinese overseas port lease and development between 2015 to 2017, which have been compiled by me. and the island chains in this figure. The 5th and 6th island chain run from Gwadar, Hambantota, Diago Garcia down south, and the other one, Djibouti, along the East African subcontinent. Every country is now rushing to invest in the island chains. Not only the islands, but the island chains. America, Japan, and Australia are electrifying villages in Samoa, Fiji, etc. to preempt the chains. India is also reaching out with string of flowers strategy. So island chains are the newfound land and everybody wants to shop them. India needs to continue island shopping vigorously. Let's look at the trade variable. Trade and economic corridor. Indo-Pacific region accounts for 62% of the world's GDP. Constitutes 46% of the world's mercantile trade. About 3.5 trillion of international trade flows through the region. The IPR region has market access to free trade and market share in a critical component in the region. Collective trade of 41 IPR maritime littorals were calculated by us, and we found in 2018 that they generated a trade of $5,200 million approximately. India's share is a meager 320 million, amounting to 6% only, whereas China's share is only 13%. There are plenty of opportunities for both India and China, and India especially here. Now coming to the independent variable, 60% of the region's trade takes place within the region itself, indicating strong regional trade and economic interdependence. Interdependence is a critical stability variable for trade in the Indo-Pacific states. I conclude by a few policy recommendations. With a new identity and changing strategic relevance of islands, India must pursue its engagement more vehemently in the blue economy domain and also address the global common concerns at international fora. Jointly, the IPR nations need to review UNCLOS and international laws of sea to strengthen blue economic perspectives more and for effective implementation and compliance of blue economical factors. India is hailed globally for its goodwill gestures and transparent policies. And therefore, India must continue with its goodwill engagements in the blue domain by improving bilateral economic and management policies to navigate through the new economy. Thank you, sir. I have finished. I'm open for questions if any.
Thank you very much, Harinder Singh. We'll take the question later. Thank you very much for a very, very comprehensive and an exhaustive presentation on various aspects of the sustainable development as part of the blue economy and the action and the measures to be taken ahead. We now turn to our next eminent panelist, which is Dr. Celine Germon, who is actually a senior lecturer in human geography at the Liverpool John Moores at United Kingdom. Her specialization is in sustainability and development, and she will share our thoughts and views with us on the island chain sustainability. May I now request Dr. Celine to kindly make her presentation, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and happy World Ocean Day. Thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this roundtable. It is a pleasure to be here alongside all the other panelists. So for this short talk, I would like to make a few comments related to some challenges facing the blue economy when it comes to its sustainable dimension, including the social dimension of sustainability. And many points actually reiterate what has been said today and highlight the same concerns. So to start with, if we look at the concept of sustainability or sustainable development, as it has already been mentioned, it refers to three main dimensions: the environment, the economy, and society. And the concept of the blue economy, in contrast with the concept of maritime economy, is supposed to include the sustainability dimension. But the sustainability dimension of the blue economy has often centered around the environment and the economy, not so much the social dimension. It attempts to incorporate the economic opportunities associated with the oceans while recognizing and addressing the threats to the marine environment. And as you know, and as it has been reminded today, the blue economy concept gained popularity after the organization of Rio +20 in 2012. And it was linked to the idea of a green economy, as illustrated by many reports that were published before the conference, looking at bringing oceans into the green economy. And the green in green economy refers to the environment. Blue in the blue economy refers to the green economy spreading into another blue space, the marine space. So the environmental dimension has been here from the start alongside the economy. When it comes to the economic dimension, the global economic context played a role putting the blue economy on the agenda. For instance, the financial crisis of 2007, 2008 indeed contributed to the need to find innovative solutions toward recovery. And that was, for example, illustrated by the European Union Blue Growth Strategy in 2012. And more recently, just a few months ago, the high-level panel for sustainable ocean economy called for investment in the blue recovery in a post-COVID world. So there is this recognition of the role oceans can play to foster economic growth and recovery. But looking at these two aspects, environmental needs and economic needs, and that it has been reminded today by several speakers, there is a tension here if you consider that the threats posed to the marine environment often result from the exploitation of natural resources for economic benefits. And the expression blue acceleration has even been advanced to qualify this race between different interests for ocean resources. So, as with any sustainability consideration, the question is how to conciliate these two aspects, environment, economy. Should one dimension prevail, or is a perfect equilibrium feasible? And the thing is that there are a wide range of interpretations of what the blue economy is and should entail. And this is a challenge. But this is also what explains the success of the concept of the blue economy in the sense of its wide endorsement by very different actors, from environmental NGOs to businesses and public authorities. It is this wide range of interpretations. The concept in itself is somehow supposed to contain the sustainability dimension. For example, if you look at the World Bank, how the World Bank defines the blue economy, for the World Bank, it is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs, and ocean economic ecosystem health. If you look at the WWF, the blue economy is an economy that restores, protects, and maintains diverse, productive, and resilient ecosystems, and that is based on clean technologies, renewable energy, and circular material flows. So the sustainable dimension is here. However, the term sustainable is sometimes added to the expression blue economy, as in a sustainable blue economy, as if the sustainability dimension of the blue economy was not a given. And what I also would like to highlight is that in addition to this question of how to combine and satisfy economic needs with environmental needs, and as with any sustainability consideration, the social dimension is often neglected. The social dimension is one of the dimensions of sustainable development, but it generally comes after the economy and the environment, if it comes at all. And this raises the question of the place of people within the blue economy. For the blue economy to be truly sustainable, the questions of justice and equity need to be considered. And if we look at the academic literature, the literature has highlighted potential risks of dispossession, of exclusion of coastal communities from blue economy initiatives. So really the question is what or whom the blue economy is serving in the end, and how to define a successful blue economy. Is it about avoiding negative impacts on local and coastal populations? Or is it about directly benefiting the local population? Or is it about the process? For example, having an inclusive process and listening to people's concerns? Or is it about embedding people's concerns into decision making? And actually, all these questions, they are questions that apply to all initiatives labeled as sustainable, whether on land or at sea. So I would like to make three final comments in that respect. First, we need to better understand the relationship between people and the sea and how that can affect or contribute to the blue economy. People include a wide range of users in a wide range of communities, having a wide range of different values. So I think that social sciences have an important role to play here. And as you know, 2021-2030 is the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And ocean science needs to include social sciences too. My second point links to the first one, in the sense that in addition to a transdisciplinary approach, we also need to adopt a multi-stakeholder approach. Indeed, and once again, as it has been mentioned today, the blue economy concerns all sectors relevant to coastal and marine management. For example, climate change, tourism, or maritime security. For instance, the blue economy can create fantastic opportunities for small islands, developing states, as a result of increased tourism. But increased tourism can also add pressure on social ecological systems, hence the need for multi-stakeholder collaboration at the local level when planning and developing blue economy activities to ensure inclusive and sustainable growth. Another example, and once again, as it has been reminded today, global trade and other economic activities at sea can be threatened by piracy or maritime criminality, so we add the security dimension here. Hence the need for multi-stakeholders dialogue between all concerned sectors to unravel the complexity of the blue economy and work towards its just and sustainable implementation. And finally, I also would like to highlight the importance of regions and the local scale. A problem with this big meta concept like sustainable development or blue economy is that they can give the impression that there is one overall pathway, while these concepts and the related principles need to be adapted to regional and local realities and make full use of local knowledge as well. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Celine. It has been a very, very enriching presentation you made, where you made the connection of people and humankind with the oceans. It actually reminded me that we are all tied and connected to the oceans. And all we need to do is to reflect on a very interesting biological fact that we all have in our veins the same percentage of salt, which is the same percentage of salt in the oceans. And it is true not only about the salt in the oceans, but also the salt in our veins, but also the salt in our sweat and in our tears. So we are all tied and connected to the oceans. And when we talk of sustainability, as you rightly said, we have to connect people with the oceans. I'm also reminded of an initiative that India had taken, which was called Project Mosam. And this was an initiative for connectivity between people and cultures through the oceans. So I think that we cannot talk about the blue economy without talking about the human angle, without talking about the social and the cultural sustenance. And thank you very much for your very deep insight into it. Thank you very much. Our final speaker in this session is Professor Jason Scores. He's a professor in the Environment Studies in the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at USA. He is an expert on economics, in the environmental economics, on the ocean economy. And today he will be sharing his thoughts with us on the area of actually the blue economy economics of 2021, as to how the economics plays out as part of the blue economy. Over to you, Professor Jason.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. You know, it's been a long morning here, a lot of slides, a lot of presentations. So I'm gonna keep this very, very brief and just try to make two overarching points. The first is I just want to make a technical point here, which is I've heard sustainable blue economy, and I think we all should not use that term. The blue economy is sustainable. So the blue economy is a subset of the larger ocean maritime economy that is sustainable. So saying sustainable blue economy is redundant. And I think we really need to get that the blue economy is that narrower, smaller subset of the ocean economy that meets very strict sustainability criteria. So a lot of people are watering down. And I don't need my slides, by the way. Sorry, I'm just gonna speak here. So again, I think a lot of people are watering down blue economy thinking by kind of, again, using this redundant terminology. So let's really all get at it in our mind. When we say blue economy, we're meaning something that's already very, very sustainable. If it's not the blue economy. It shouldn't be discussed as such. The second point I want to make is, and this relates to my presentation, is that if we're not talking about blue economy with the context of climate change, it's not serious. Right? So again, the blue economy has to be addressing one of two or three things: reducing greenhouse gas emissions, helping communities adapt to climate impacts, and helping ecosystems adapt to climate impacts. If it's not doing one of those three things, it's not a serious blue economy activity. So with all due respect, some of the things that I heard about that were considered blue economic activities, according to the World Bank definition, according to my center's definition, would not be blue economy, right? So massive fin fish aquaculture pens that have feed to conversion ratios that are 3 or 4, that's not blue economy. That is unsustainable, damaging aquaculture, right? Seabed mining. Maybe at some point in the future it will be done well, but right now I do not think that should be considered blue economy. Right? That is too damaging, it is too risky, and again, we can't just keep going for virgin materials. We have to have new technologies, right? The last thing I'll say here is that a lot of this means that there's a lot of opportunity if we really think about sustainability seriously. Right? Again, if we go the old way and it's just maximally exploit the ocean and we call blue economy anything that's generating GDP from the oceans, we're going down the wrong path. So what I'm working on in the United States, and if any of you want to follow up with me, I'd be happy to talk about it, is very, very strong ocean climate policy in the United States. I can be happy to announce that the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act that my center had a role in producing was just introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives. It's the first kind of U.S. climate bill with the oceans in our history, and it's a really great start. I think it could be a great template for other countries if they want to look at kind of the key sectors that are really the true blue economy. And so that's all I wanted to say to you today. I'm happy to follow up with you. I know it's been, with 2 hours, we have limited attention spans here, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jason. You made some very, very strong points, and I think very valid ones, that at the heart of the blue economy has to be the sustainable aspect. And the oceans are by themselves sustainable. It is that whenever we are venturing to actually harness the oceans or harness the blue economy part of the oceans, we have to be mindful that we cannot do it at harm to the natural marine habitat, to the ecology, to the environment, to contributing anything further towards climate change, which is what exploitation of the oceans are actually doing. So I think some very, very strong points there. So we have had a wide range of presentations today, and it is obvious that there is an ocean of opportunities to harness the blue economy. But the challenge is to ensure that this is done with minimum impact on the environment, by optimal utilization of resources, and to ensure sustainable development of the oceans. Now, having said that, what I'm going to do is that I will highlight some of the important takeaways, as well as some of the recommendations. Some of these would be India specific as to what India needs to do as a way ahead to move further to harness the blue economy. And some are what India needs to do in collaboration and in cooperation with the other countries of the region. So to start off that, I would first say that India as a maritime nation has tremendous potential to harness the blue economy. Both Ambassador Mudgal and myself, we have had the privilege to actually work on drafting the aspects related to the blue economy for the country as part of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council Committee. What this country now needs, what we need to do, is to actually draw up a national level blue economy action plan for economic development of the maritime interests, as well as for the development of our ocean resources. Secondly, in the recently concluded Maritime Summit, the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, had made a recommendation that in the maritime domain, we should avoid working in silos. And taking on from that recommendation, I would like to say that we need to adopt a more integrated approach. And we need to have an apex level organization for coordination and integration of the planning processes of a large number of agencies and organizations which operate in the maritime domain. And this is of paramount importance so that we can actually look at the sustainable development of our maritime interests and also to monitor the blue economy initiatives. India, you're all aware, has 12 major ports and nearly 200 non-major ports. And Sagarmala is the flagship project of the Shipping Ministry, which is a port-led development initiative based on 4 pillars of modernization, connectivity, port-led industrialization, and coastal community development. What we need to do is to incorporate the marine spatial planning, because it is very, very important that we effectively map our coastal areas, areas for development of our ports, and including the exclusive economic zone. And this is to ensure that we prevent development of any offshore ocean slums if we don't actually map our coastal areas and exclusive economic zone. And here, India should actually work closely with other countries in the region, because you would need to have the mapping techniques, you will need the underwater domain awareness, you will need all those assets that are required so that you have an effective mapping, so that you can actually optimally utilize your sea resources and your ocean resources. India has a vibrant shipbuilding industry with over 28 shipyards, and about over 90% of India's trade by volume and 77% by value transits by sea. However, there is a serious mismatch between flag and trade. While over 90% of our trade transits by sea, only 7% is carried in Indian hulls. And we pay nearly 50 billion US dollars every year on account of freight alone. So there is a requirement to draw up a national shipbuilding plan for construction of a variety of ships and vessels in different tonnages and categories. And this is also important because we must understand that the shipping industry today, if you take the world shipping industry, it is the 6th largest polluter as in terms of countries in the world. So ships of the future have to be constructed in accordance with the Energy Efficiency Design Index, which is promulgated by the IMO, and to be propelled by the environmentally friendly fuel of the future. That is how we will be able to take our shipping and make it more blue economy compatible. India has a thriving fishing industry with over 250,000 fishing boats and over 4 million active fishermen, and we are the 2nd largest fish producing country in the world. However, this is only scratching the surface because 90% of fishing in Indian waters is restricted to our coastal areas, and there is hardly any deep sea fishing. The government has promulgated the National Fisheries Policy, and our focus now should be towards deep sea fishing and sustainable fishing. We have to work towards that because we cannot actually exploit our sea areas by fishing in a haphazard manner. It has to be done in a sustainable manner. And that is what India and the neighboring countries and the countries of the region should actually work together towards ensuring sustainable fishing in the waters around us. India has over 1,300 islands and islets as part of the Andaman and Nicobar group in the Bay of Bengal and the Lakshadweep group in the Arabian Sea. The government has prepared a comprehensive island development plan, taking into account aspects of security, aspects of the economic sustenance, the environment preservation, and the social and cultural sustenance. And I'm sure Dr. Saleen would be happy to know that we've taken the social aspects and the cultural aspects of these islands into account as well. What we need to do is that we need to ensure that these greenfield infrastructure projects are with a virtually zero carbon footprint. When we are planning these for cruise tourism, whether we are planning them for controlled ecotourism, for marine tourism, and for setting up the port infrastructure in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, because this will actually help us to enhance the connectivity with the other littoral neighbors in the Bay of Bengal. And as you know, the Bay of Bengal is one of the largest bay in the world, with 7 countries located on the rim of the bay. So we are talking of connectivity, we are talking about the coastal trade, we are talking about issues related to development of cruise tourism, but certainly whatever has to be done, we have to keep the environment impact foremost in our mind to see that it is sustainable development. India has offshore oil and gas exploration areas. India has also had the pioneer status and has deep seabed mining areas in central Indian Ocean. But as Professor Jason had brought out, we need to ensure that whatever is done, even in terms of survey and exploration, is done with minimal impact on the environment, and to see that the natural marine habitat is not either harmed in any way, and there is no impact or nil impact or minimum impact on the ecological part of it. This is very, very important when we are looking at that. Renewable sources of ocean energy, yes, they are areas that we need to look into, whether it's the wind energy, whether it's the wave energy, tidal energy that Admiral Alam spoke about. But we can also look at ocean thermal energy conversion, which is particularly applicable in our Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where the depth of the water actually falls down to 1,000, 2,000 meters. And this can also be utilized for providing, converting seawater into drinking water, as we are doing in the Lakshadweep Islands, and also to provide renewable sources of ocean energy to our islands, particularly in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. In order to fully implement the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Sagar, or security and growth for all in the region, we would need to draw up a comprehensive maritime cooperation roadmap with other countries of the region. And this should be done with a whole of government approach. We would need to see that how we can work together to evolve a rules-based international order, how we can look forward to enhancing the areas and avenues of maritime cooperation, and also to shape a favorable and a positive environment in the maritime domain across the Indo-Pacific. We can also look at actually linking up Sagar and Sagarmala. Sagarmala is the development of ports, Sagar is security and growth for all in the region. And this is in connection with our littoral neighbors. For example, development of ports and harbors in our neighborhood can also be part of this initiative, so that we can enhance trade. And this development again has to be done in a manner so that it is sustainable ports, and we do marine spatial planning before that, so that it is with minimum impact on the environment. The United Nations had published a document which was talked about by Captain Harinder Singh, Transforming Our World, Agenda 2030, and particularly Sustainable Development Goal 14, which talks and provides a template for conservation of oceans, seas, and resources. India needs to take the lead and draw up a comprehensive perspective plan for sustainable development in the areas of our oceans, talk about the initiatives to be taken with regard to climate change, the impact of climate change and how to overcome it, and generally to discuss and come up with a plan with the other countries of the region on the overall sustainable development of the oceans. The Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, had also taken a dynamic initiative of Swachh Bharat, or Clean India. We need to extend this initiative to Swachh Sagar, or Clean Oceans. And India needs to take the lead along with all the other countries in the region to make an action plan for clean and healthy oceans for our future generations. The seas around us are gaining newfound importance as each day goes by. And I have no doubt that the current century is the century of the seas. India, along with other countries of the region, will have to work together to ensure sustainable development of the oceans, and also to ensure a safe, secure, stable, and sustainable Indo-Pacific for harnessing the blue economy. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Joe, please.
Rahul, we can't hear you. You're breaking off.
Yes, I would request to kindly deliver the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'm Navjot Arora, and I'm delighted to present the formal vote of thanks on behalf of the Raisina House. I will take this opportunity to thank our esteemed speakers, Admiral R.K. Dhowan, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, ADC retired, Chairman Samdis, former Chief of Naval Staff, Indian Navy, Rear Admiral retired Mohammad Khurshed Alam, BN Secretary Maritime Affairs Unit, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh, Ambassador Anup K. Mudgal, IFS retired member, FICCI Task Force on Blue Economy, former Indian ambassador to Mauritius. Professor Jason Scott, Associate Professor